I mean,
It being 7 o'clock, we're going to call the meeting to order. If we could stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for being here. Okay, thank you. We have a quorum present, and each of you should have an agenda in front of you. And there's no amendments to the agenda that I'm aware of.
no. Move to approve the agenda. I'll second.
We have a motion by Chris, seconded by Zach to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And you also have in front of you the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes, the invoices, and the financial reports. Hopefully you've had time to review those.
Move to approve the consent agenda. I'll second.
We have a motion by Nick, seconded by Zach to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So we will move on to what's going well. And who would like to, do we just have one present today?
We do.
No, Andrea?
We have an illness tonight.
Oh, okay, that's too bad.
Good evening. I want to report out that we've had several businesses welcome our students at the elementary by joining us for High Five Fridays. The businesses that have been there include Northwest Communications, the Pocahontas Public Library, and the Pocahontas Hospital. We're looking forward to Black Hills Energy, the Rialto, the Zone, and Pro Co-op coming and visiting us and welcoming students to school before Christmas break. We're so fortunate to live in a community that supports us in educating our youth at Pocahontas Area Elementary. And if any other businesses are interested and would like to participate, we would love to have you. So you just need to call the office and pick a Friday that works for them. This Friday, we will also be hanging some artwork at the local businesses. We have turkeys for the month of November and then wreaths for the month of December. So community members can do some window shopping and check out all the elementary artwork. And then this month, our PBIS committee, which focuses on improving student behavior, has put some strategies in place that have had a positive impact on behavior with zero consequences or punishments for students. Having opportunities to practice skills in a rewarding way is paying off at the elementary. And to give you an example, we incorporated a mystery hallway helper. And this person reports on students who are exhibiting the correct hallway behavior, and they're shared on the announcements each day. So students are always trying to figure out who the mystery helper is. We share out those that have helped, and then we secretly pick new monitors weekly. It's made a huge difference during our transition times, and our lower elementary teachers couldn't be more pleased with our 3rd through 6th graders who patiently now wait for our younger kids to enter and exit classrooms. So it's just something that shows we don't have to be punitive to change behavior. Giving them opportunities to practice those skills really makes a difference, so we're excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Quick question. The High Five Friday, the business wants to be part of that. How do they, or what are they required to do?
Just contact the office at the elementary, and we'll let you know which Fridays are still available. We have somebody up until, I think, Christmas break, and then we have some dates between Christmas and the end of the year that we would be happy to have people come and do that. So it's been.
And they have to present or what?
Nope, they just, they're standing in our entryway, and as kids come in, because they only come in through the office doors, they're just giving them high fives and welcome to class. A lot of the businesses have given the kids things. For example, the library gave out bookmarks. I think Northwest Communications gave out a small popcorn to the theater, and then the hospital staff gave out USA necklaces because that was our Veterans Day program. So all tied in really nice, and the kids were excited to see them. So they just kind of form a tunnel, and the kids go through and drive them and start their day off on the right foot. So yeah, just give us a call at the office, and we'd be happy to put you on our list.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
Bet.
Are you filling in for Andrea then?
Got a little bit.
Okay.
Andrea was not able to be here this evening, but as far as the high school, middle school is concerned, we had our musical this last weekend, Friday, Saturday. We also had a matinee for the elementary students. But for the Friday, Saturday attendance, they're estimating 442 people came to the show between the two nights. Veterans Day program was last Friday. We had a very nice turnout. Student participation was great once again. This is a collaborative effort between the Women's Auxiliary and really the staff here in the district. Coordinating, trying to get speakers set up and trying to get that coordinated each year. It's a really nice program. We've also got a little bit of an update for you as well. Vulnerability assessments. This is a part of the governor's initiative for school safety. So this is one of the next big steps. So Homeland Security has subcontracted with Tetra Tech to come in and do some assessments. We started that process today at the middle school, high school building here. We then went over to the Regional Learning Center in the afternoon, and tomorrow we start with the elementary and then out to the preschool to complete that process. Once those vulnerabilities assessments are complete, we'll then wait to get a report back. Upon getting that report, we're then allowed then to begin the application process for the grant funds to start addressing some of the vulnerability items that are being identified in that study. Also point out to you that yesterday was National Kindness Day, and this week is National Education Week as well. We also had an update for the elementary, got over the weekend as well. You remember the foundation was here talking about looking at artificial turf for part of that playground area. We'll get you some more information and I'll get that pushed out. Did not get it in time for the board packet. But the estimate is somewhere in that neighborhood of about $300,000 in order to put this in at the elementary. This would run from the west fence where the P-rock is over to as far as where those rubber tiles and through the rubber tile replacing those. So it's going to be a little bit of a bite, and at that cost, we will have to involve architect or engineers in terms of working through that, if that's a direction the district decides they wish to pursue down the road. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Jeff Halder, bus inspection report.
On November 1st, we had our vehicle inspection. We inspected 30 vehicles. Out of that 30, we ended up with 4 30-day repair tickets. One was for a license plate light on a van. One was for a brake light out on a bus that worked the night before. Come back in, was not. Other than that, all went well. As far as the used bus that we purchased in Marshalltown, they are expecting delivery of that next week. They had a list of repairs that they were going to do, and then we added to their list of repairs, and they are waiting for parts on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Next, we have public communication with the board. And we have Clara Barnhart. And she's not present, so we will move on to business. And we have to discuss / approve disposal of equipment and uniforms. And I think some of the stuff is in the agenda, isn't it?
There should be a little bit of information on that.
Starting on
information.
which page?
Actually, it's probably on one right behind your agenda.
Okay.
We've replaced the football varsity uniforms. Typically, in the past, once those have been replaced, unless we need to move those uniforms down a level, we make those available for student purchase. So what I'm asking the board to consider tonight is approving the purchase of those uniforms. It can be any dollar figure you chose. I believe in the past, it's been in that $15 to $20 range. These uniforms, I believe we've used for 7 or 8 years, unless they've been updated over the course of that time due to damage. Then you also have on that list some equipment that's being recommended, that's currently being stored in bus barns to clear out some space.
Go out to the sale.
We take it to the sale with board's permission.
The tire machine, do we still do our own tire repairs or?
We don't use the bulk oil tank at all. It's just an old sitting in the corner.
Sitting in the back.
Okay.
So we need to determine how much to charge for the football uniforms?
Correct.
And you said we've done this in the past and we've had anywhere from.
Dollar rates have ranged in the past. If you go back far enough, we used to make them available to seniors to purchase and then replace. We stopped that practice when our replacement cost was substantially higher than what we were selling them for. These have been used for a number of years, so I can't sit here and tell you that I've got a book I can go to that says what the value of a used uniform is.
Did
What
we
I
have
would
any
recommend-
trouble selling them in the past? Like when we put
Typically,
them out, did we get rid of?
your juniors and seniors in particular, scoop them up fairly quickly.
Okay,
And I would recommend you start with your senior class and then go down from there in terms of making those available by grade.
and you said the range in the past was anywhere from 10 to 20?
Well, we've gone as high as 50, but
Oh,
those
okay.
were when we were replacing them after
Oh.
just a year or two.
Okay,
And then we were trying to recoup some of the costs to physically replace a pair of uniforms, which typically has a fair amount of cost. So what I'm recommending here is, you can make it a different number, but possibly $15 per jersey, all right? Because you've got both home and away potentially.
Seems fair.
we can make this all one motion if we prefer.
You wish.
I'll move to approve the sale of the football uniforms for $15 per jersey, and then allow the equipment to go to Ricky's sale.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion by Chris, seconded by Zach, to approve of taking items 2 through 4 through sale barn auction and selling the football uniforms at a cost of $15 per jersey. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We will move on to discuss / approve Second reading of early retirement policy 407.6, which can be.
And that
found-
should be first reading.
Okay.
That's a typo.
It's a typo?
Yeah.
Can be found on page 26.
At this point in time, I wouldn't necessarily recommend to the board to look at incentivizing staff retiring because of the shortage of replacement staff. However, we do have a few staff who, at least through the rumor mill, are considering making this their last year. There's a big difference between being able to go out on the market in December, January, advertising for a potential vacancy, as compared to possibly May for doing the same process. This would at least give the board and the district the flexibility to get out on the market earlier versus later. But it is a lower number that I'm recommending to you from the past than we've had other years where we haven't had anything.
So what changed on this? Yes.
We just have some people who are considering retirement. However, there is no verbal commitment to do so. As that continues to extend out, your availability of getting to the market with a limited pool of candidates in some of these areas
Sure.
is going to dramatically impact this district potentially. Because at least one of these positions would be, in my opinion, a very hard to fill position. So really what you're doing here is incentivizing early announcement. Because I'm not so sure that they will not potentially choose to retire with or without this.
So early announcement is kind of the goal, plus hopefully you get maybe a better pool of candidates because you're searching quickly or
Trying to get out
early
ahead of
in
the
game.
market if possible. In the past, you've done this through just a few $100 incentive, $1,000, for example, and not called it early retirement. The downside of that is that will come from your general fund. By going as an early retirement process, you now can shift that cost to management, which saves your general fund, which at this time, I'm strongly recommending you want to do everything you can to limit those expenditures out of the general fund. The outlook right now does not sound as though a very substantial number as far as supplemental state aid will be coming from the legislature and governor this year. It will very likely be below the consumer price index, which is going to put you in a difficult position.
There is a small typo on this, on page 27. Where it says, please attach letter of resignation effective June, it's supposed to be 30th.
Yeah, it should be.
Don't think that's how you spell it. I can't honestly tell you how to spell it.
No, we'll take a look. Got it.
So we need to come up with a dollar amount.
Well, I'm recommending to you to maybe consider the $10,000 range. But that number can be whatever the board chooses as what you believe to be adequate.
And this will come out of management fund.
This would be a management by making an early retirement, yes.
What were we last year?
We did not have one at all last year.
2 years ago?
The last time we ran it, it was 35,000. That was before our shortages, so that's probably 3 years back.
Yep.
Is that when we had like 8 retirements?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. it was on.
Well, we don't want to encourage it, obviously, but at the same time, we want early announcement.
I'm gonna move to approve the $10,000 for early retire, or early announcement,
Early retirement.
or early retirement. And skip the second reading.
I'll second that.
Do we think that's enough? Is my question.
That's a hard one for me to answer. I have spoken to at least one of these individuals who may be strongly considering it.
Yeah.
And 10 to 15 was a number that was thrown out, knowing that we have not done it the last couple of years.
Okay.
And realizing that we're not necessarily trying to incentivize someone to leave early, which is oftentimes what you're using early retirement for.
And if we approve this, they have to submit their request by the 15th of January.
And actually, I thought it was the 15th of December that we had listed in here, so did we miss a January somewhere in here?
On page 26 of the agenda, it does say January
In
15th.
the third bullet point, yes.
Okay, but I would recommend that be December in order to get out ahead of the holidays. So that you actually have that in the market for people who are home for the holidays and have a little bit of free time to look.
Mike, do you want to amend your motion or?
Yeah, I'll amend it to where it's December 15th. Do you think we want to move or amend the amount, Chris?
What do you guys think?
You don't want it too high because you don't want people,
No, I know.
it's a tight one.
I'm just asking to talk about it a little bit. I mean,
Yeah. I think it's a good-
$10,000 is a fair amount of money, but it's obviously less than $10,000 was a year ago with inflation.
Exactly. And it's a lot less than it was the last time we ran.
So 10 to
But
15
that
is
was a different situation.
what was thrown out, Bill?
Yes.
Take the 15.
Okay, I'd amend it to 15,000.
I'll second that.
Do we have any other discussion? It's a tough one to decide on, honestly.
At least then you're at least knowing you can start throwing stuff out there right away too. Getting the jump on somebody else that's already retiring in another district or something.
My personal opinion, I would hope that it would result in early announcements or early application and would help with our planning.
Right.
That's it, isn't it? We tried. I mean, this is that we didn't try and incentive to get ahead of the game a little bit.
Any other discussion? If not, we have a motion by Mike, seconded by Zach, to approve the early retirement policy with just slight amendments. The applications would have to be submitted by December the 15th, and the early retirement package would be $15,000. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have to discuss / approve requests for early graduation from Brett Johnson, Morgan Bales, and Noah Mills.
They all qualify
As of right now, they are all on track
to qualify.
to qualify.
That's pretty kind of normal versus other years, isn't it, as far as numbers?
Yeah, we usually have 3 to 5.
Last year was 3 or 4, I think, too.
So you had 3 to 5 usually.
I'll move to approve early graduations contingent on the fact that they meet all the requirements.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Chris, seconded by Jolene to approve the list of early graduation, subject to having met graduation requirements. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving on, we have to discuss / approve the amended modified allowable growth for special ed deficit.
We had this on your agenda last month, as you might recall. Somehow, however, we grabbed the wrong number for your approval.
Oh,
And so the correct number, and Karen can correct me if I'm wrong, should be $323,805.64.
You want to repeat that?
Yep, $323,805.64.
how does that compare to what we approved?
A lot more.
Okay, because
I want to say it was 200,000.
we had 153, 159
There you go.
according to the minutes.
Move to approve modified allowable growth amended value of $323,805.64.
I'll second that.
The 805?
Yes.
Okay, I wrote it down. All right. We have a motion by Chris, seconded by Zach, to approve the special ed deficit of $323,805.64. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next, we have to discuss / approve installation of automated flashing school crossing systems. And that is in your packet, beginning 34, page 34.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, hi.
Alex Liu, Chief of Police. I guess Mr. Kramer and I have been talking about this for a little while, trying to come up with solutions before we came to the board, basically looking at our options. So to give you a little background in this is that when I first came to Pocahontas, and of course, being a 1990 graduate, I remember both stop signs wonderfully, both at Second Avenue Northwest and the one to the south here. And of course, at that time, people were always there, during when the stop signs were out, and this one was always permanently out. Well, over time, the state has changed the rules on how those stop signs are to be used. And then, of course, you've been unable to fill the crossing guard position down here on the Highway 4 position. So what came of all this was that I was actually doing research because we were having problems with the junction of 3 and 4. I mean, vehicles 30, 40 mile an hour just blowing through the stop sign. Well, in that discussion, we began discussing the other 2 stop signs, the rollout stop signs. On top of that, then, the state of Iowa, the DOT, is going to be resurfacing from Casey's to the Catholic Church, which they also then feel that the rollout stop signs are causing some of the problems with the road. I know the look is, but again, their commentary is that the stop signs can't be there in the current form of which they're there. There is federal rules, there are state rules that have, especially on these state highways, that if you go through Emmitsburg on Highway 18, you'll see these same type of apparatus. And I'm not even saying you have to go through this apparatus, but your options are basically down to, number one, you can leave what you have, and when the DOT wants to come along and take the stop signs, they do, because they are not legally there. The only way that those stop signs can be legally placed in the road as they are is that a half an hour before school, a half an hour after school, or after that opening, and half an hour and a half an hour on the other side of it, basically roughly an hour long in the morning and the night, and they have to be manned all the time. There has to be somebody there with them. We can get a permit for that, and then that would be, but then during the daytime, during operational time, like what happens out at Highway 4, but those, they have to have somebody at them if those stop signs are rolled out at this. The other options that you have are these, what I would call these solar-powered rectangular rapid flashing beacons. The state of Iowa approves 2 crossing systems. One is called the RRFB, which is the one that I would say that we look at as an option, or the other one is called a Hawkeye. Hawkeyes are for high-demand roads, typically 4-lane. They involve a red, yellow system where it's push activated and they cross. That system is extremely expensive, and I don't think we have the volume necessarily for that. I mean, if Highway 18 in Emmitsburg uses the RRFB, I think that's pretty standard. The RRFB is basically just 2 yellow LED flashers that are activated by a touch that then use remote signaling, and they flash these yellows. And then when traffic stops, then people know to cross. I know there's a lot of opinion about how safe those stop signs make it. Number one, I cannot enforce when the one time I watched 6 semis in a row go through those stop signs. I can't stop. First huge problem. The second problem is, and this comes straight from Roxanne Seward with the state of Iowa, she is the sign master of all Northwest Iowa. Her and I have had many a discussion about different things. Her concern is that, again, it creates a false sense of security. So we had an incident one time where I watched a student running down the sidewalk. Well, the stop signs are going to stop the cars. Well, the stop signs weren't out there, but in his mind, the stop signs were there. Thankfully, we have never had an incident, and I don't want to have an incident. But what I'm asking is to become more compliant with the way things are around the state of Iowa. Because if you go to an Iowa State game or a U of I game, you're going to see these systems. You're going to go, we just don't put stop signs in the middle of the road anymore because we want to make sure what happens if that car doesn't stop. We don't want to create a false perception, and that's the reason why these new systems have been created. So that's why I come before you today, is to see what we can do about it. And it is very difficult, because I'll be sitting there and I'll have somebody go, well, you need to go stop that semi. I can't. And if without the enforcement, without somebody, without having that, at least even with the yellow flashing lights, the police department could do more, but I can only do so much. So, so that's why I come before you today. I know Mr. Kramer's given me some, we've had, I had this TAPCO, which is, I had them generate exactly a cost. Initially, I had looked into what it would cost just for the city to put them up. We're still roughly about $14,000 to do that just as the city. The only problem there again in doing that is, do we have all the right parts? Do we have all the right pieces? We don't have necessarily the same warranty. So I picked these guys because if anybody ever drives to Carroll, you'll see one of their systems set up in Auburn. They understand the nature of that beast. I also come before you as if I can get some direction on how the school board wants to proceed with this, is that I would be willing to seek a foundation grant under the name of the police department out of safety for this, and try to see if we can, get some grant funds, and maybe there's another grant fund that comes, or a AAA grant that comes open in September that I might be able to apply for, so that we can try to bring down the cost to the taxpayers and obviously make the system work. But, my concern is for the kids. And, I do know that there was somebody in the room that has also experienced that, and he shared his experiences before on the number of times, because, again, you can't trust that the stop signs are going to make people stop. With the yellow flashing system, it may seem, well, they're just never going to stop. They do. you know, but at least you're not stepping forward into that intersection until you at least have a vehicle stop. And they can see the stop signs, because that is my most common complaint is, and even your crossing guards have done it, put little flashy LEDs on them when it's really snowy or rainy and stuff. It's just scary from the police side of the house, especially. So, you know, I don't know how much money I would be able to, I would seek out given using the TAPCO as a potential funding source, because with the foundation grants, for instance, you don't necessarily have to, this is just the idea and the concept, but, you know, I would hope that maybe I can get about 8,000, the AAA grant is 1,000, you know, to help supplement these funds. But the DOT is really basically, and the engineer that I spoke to who's doing the resurfacing project says that the DOT will put in all the paint, they will do all that, will do any curb work that needs to be done, and they'll put that into it if we will change and improve the system. So I consider that a positive from the Department of Transportation. And, you know, I think this is the time to look at making this better.
Not to make this more complex, but to piggyback a system, is there a way that they can have signs up that says, you know, right now the speed limit is 25, correct?
Correct.
Can they make it slower during school hours? I know there are some cases where during school hours, don't they have different speed zones?
Correct. I would have to look into that. I haven't broached that topic. I know what it's like having been the chief of police in Fonda and trying to, actually my goal there was to level it out, because you go 45, 35, 45. I said 40 all the way across, and the DOT denied. To me, it was one speed limit. They had done it in Newell, but for some reason there, they wanted to keep a 35 of 800 feet. So it's definitely something that we could do there. I do know, so the uniform signing manual requires speed limit signs every 3 blocks, I think it is, and we're like 12 blocks. So, I mean, and it's awkward anyway, because if you don't realize it, and maybe that's something that needs to be modified is, so at Highway 3 and 4, as you come east, that first block is actually 30 miles an hour, and then it goes down to 25. Again, things I don't understand and were done long before me. And then we don't get out here until we get past Dinos, then we go back up. So I would also say just even getting the 25 mile an hour zone signs would be helpful. It's a tough area to run traffic, honestly, with those stop signs out too, just because, but you know, that's just a rough area because there's not a lot of, we have to do basically a mobile.
And I work at the junction of 3 and 4, and I can vouch for a lot of semis around the stop sign, just because they don't.
Right. I mean, I have the body cam footage and stuff. I mean, the number of them, and you truly get to that point where you do believe them, and the fact that, and it's like 90% have all been southbound runs that we have been getting into and trying to figure that out. So we've added you've noticed the red strips. The DOT gave us red strips to put along there just to have that visual acuity. You know, I'm working through those pieces, but actually this kind of fits into it, because if we go with something at 2nd Avenue Northwest, I've got to figure out how all those signs lay out as you're coming into it. You know, it's just crazy when you sit up and you talk to these people and like, why didn't you stop? Stop? What stop? I mean, an LED flashing stop sign, and I do believe they're not seeing it.
Well, I honestly wish they would have taken the flasher down that was hung with the cables.
Right.
Because I think we have less, you know, running the stop sign there with that.
So, and if at some point one of those LED stop signs break, my recommendation is going to go back at least to the red flashing circle on the sign instead of the LED, because part of the problem was the semi had hit it, and the city, one thing has helped are my numbers, is that the city turned the LED stop sign enough because it was actually canted, and if you really didn't perceive it unless you were back at the fire station, you looked at it, you couldn't see an LED light on because it was tilted just enough.
So now, we know that they're gonna redo the pavements. They're gonna redo the sidewalks, and the sidewalks have to come down to
Have to be
grade,
widened at least,
or
so I'm not
widened and
sure
brought
about
down to
bringing down, but
actually
widened.
grade, right, or, street grade.
I'm not
I don't know
sure
what's
about
gonna, because if I remember right, when that guy was here, he said we had to figure out how to get it there where
By the church and the
by
school.
the church and the school. I think that's gonna actually, it'll have to come down, so we're probably gonna be having to wait until that's all done before we even enact this, or we're gonna be doing it all over again, correct?
Well, but my thing is that to get the grant.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm just trying to think, you know, if we do all this next summer or whatever, when they're repaving all this and they're gonna redo all the sidewalks and paint all the stripes and all that stuff.
I'm not sure the locations will make a difference, but I need some help, because if you're westbound, it'll be on the north side of the road, which would be opposite of the elementary, I think. If you're going eastbound, then it's gotta be back half a block to the west or whatever, where that flasher's going to be, so it won't be right in front of the school, it will be basically next block to the west.
Yeah, so that may not even come into play then.
Right.
Worst case scenario, they'd have to reset a pole, right? Because aren't they gonna be mounted on a pole?
Right. And what I would say is, given the way the engineer's talking to me on this, if I give him the thumbs up that we have a basic agreement to make sure we're gonna go forward with some change to reduce the use of those stop signs, we wouldn't begin this project until after their piece was done. So that basically would work together. Then I would go to the project engineer and I would say, well, this is all of our hardware. What are you also willing then to throw into it? And obviously we know they're only gonna commit so far, but you know, he seemed hopeful that he would be able to fit some of this into that. So yeah, we would want to see what their final design on curbs and sidewalks are. The biggest thing that they just want is that the city and the school agrees that we need to change the way we're doing business.
Did you say the city was gonna help out?
So
With grants?
I've talked with Joan, and so we talked about using the city workers then to help, you know, attach and do these, because basically this project will come and then we will be responsible for its installation. So, and then as far as the grants and stuff, that's my job, since I used to be the grant writer for Fonda, you know, I'm just gonna grant write for this. So, you know, and any other monies that I can find, like I said, I know for sure I have 2 that I have potential sources of funding. So, to help.
So you're thinking 8,000 more, possibly, depending, give or take?
Well, I would say we shoot for a finished product that's designed. So I would like to see us at the 22, 23,000, but whatever money I can get. So if I can get potentially up to 9,000 in funding, you know, in grant funding, that at least helps lower those costs.
So responsibility of the cost, is it the school or is it the city?
School,
Okay.
and which fund would this come out of?
That part we'll have to do some more research on, because it's not on the school's property where we're placing this, which becomes the question here. I don't know whether or not we can use our facilities funds, since it's not an improvement to the school itself, because it would not be on school property necessarily. This is gonna fall within the city's right of way. The issue here, I think, though, is student safety. You've got 2 quotes, I believe, page 43 and 44, or 42 and 44. You'll notice that there's not a significant difference in these 2. Difference in the pricing is whether or not it has the light that shoots across that crosswalk. So because we're only talking a few hundreds of dollars difference here,
About $600.
600, that you go with the one that has the light shining on that crosswalk to light it up.
So when they push the button, your lights start to flash and then an illuminating light. I thought it was actually kind of an interesting feature, so that's why I priced it out. But at least on that one, so in bad weather or whatever, these big white lights come on and it shoots right down at that.
The walking path.
The walking path. That would only be on the one crossing though. I left the other one is just, I mean, the volume out there is not super high. So, on your highway.
So we need a motion to approve this, Joe? Is that correct?
I think if I'm understanding, what you're looking for is a motion that says we're going to invest in an improvement here.
You know, and the more, this is me thinking, we didn't price to put that illuminated strip where you walk on this intersect, or this
Correct.
crosswalk. If it's only $550, if it improves the safety, I guess,
Do it on both.
I don't see why we wouldn't do it for both of them.
Yeah.
I don't see why we would for those 2. Because there's a lot more people that run that one out there
Absolutely.
than this one.
True, very true.
And I guess the way I look at it, if you potentially save someone's life, it's very much worth
Yeah,
$550.
Yeah, that's cheap.
Agreed.
I guess my only thought, so the city's not gonna help pay for anything, it's just supply the workers.
And write the grant.
And then.
And write the
and you're
grants.
writing the grants.
And I'll be writing the grants and stuff like that. And again, and I don't think it's necessarily that the city, I mean, and I can't speak specifically, obviously, for my council and whatnot. Again, it's just, we're trying to figure out how to do the safety. It's needed by the school mostly, I mean, I think that's really, and again, knowing my city workers and everybody else, I mean, and I think at the end of the day, it'll be a great cooperative project all the way along. And obviously, I'm going to be seeking as many grant funds as I can, so.
So you'll be able, if someone runs it, you're able to give them a ticket.
Correct. So at this point, then,
This
where
will
do
be
we?
in compliance.
So now the yellow lights are flashing, so that scenario would be yellow lights are flashing, vehicles appear to be coming to a stop. Someone makes that and they walk into the crosswalk, all those cars by state law have to come to a stop.
So you have an enforceable traffic lighting system or.
Correct.
I don't know what you
And
wanna call
honestly,
it.
the overhead makes it even better because no matter where we're seeing, we'll be able to see those white lights come on.
I think it's a good idea. My brain just says, okay, we pay for it, the district pays for it. You're able to write tickets and that money goes to the city.
As of right now, it goes to the state. I'm not
You guys
issuing
don't get
state
state.
ticket or city tickets yet because of problems with some code writing issues that I needed to fix with the clerk of court. There was some issues there. So we are not writing city tickets,
Just state tickets.
but you're correct. That would technically come
You
back
make it, yes.
if I did that. So.
That was my only thought is if you guys give tickets for the city, you guys are making money on it. And that's, I know it's a safety thing. I get it, but I'm just looking at that part, the money part.
I get you. Well, and I think that's where, if I have the motion today too, then it can start that discussion too, because I think everybody will come to some level of agreement. So, if it's on city property, if the school pays to put them in, maybe the recommendation of the city is then they will maintain them, and those kind of agreements. I mean, that to me, I think would be a fair, although like I said, I can't speak for anybody other than bring the concern and try to get so that I can say we go forward. So.
Hopefully this doesn't end up like that. I know the ones out in the country, because I work with the guy that takes care of the signs on county. They've been shooting the signs and that's an expensive ordeal but here in town, I don't think they would do that.
Well, I would hope, especially,
I was gonna say, but I'm just saying, there've been a few bullet holes in them and that kind of really makes it very upset because that's like $700 every time they put a hole in one.
Joe, which fund would it be best for the district for it to be able to come out of? And we don't know which one is.
Ideally, you take it out of your facilities funding rather than your general fund. At this point, I can't answer whether or not that will be permissible, given the fact that it's not attached or a part of school property per se. I can tell you Storm Lake, when they did their elementary, the new building that they're putting in up there, they had to pay, the district had to pay for the entire new light system, basically. And I think that was over $1 million. So I'm afraid the precedent potentially here is, but we need to find out. I just can't answer it.
And honestly, it's a need regardless of what fund it comes out of.
Correct.
So how does the motion need to be phrased?
Partner with the city, I think, for coordination of a crossing.
crossing system using the RRFB system.
So this will not change, because usually they say, so if it was actually ordered, this will not change the price of this. Say if it's 90 days before it gets paid.
I explained to him that this project probably wouldn't begin until spring or early summer, and so he.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, I mean, if we approve, say, $25,000, and they come back and say, no, it's $45,000, I just don't want that to happen.
Do we have in our motion, do we?
Technically, I probably would put a dollar figure, and I would give yourself a little bit of
Yeah, a little
cushion because of
leeway, I mean,
inflationary.
up to 30,000.
So if you-
whatever, so.
If we make two identical ones, the 23,504, is that's not two of the advanced ones with the walk?
That's just the one advance.
So how much do you need in?
So it would be whatever that difference
Probably
was
about
between the one.
$600 worth or whatever.
Right, it was just the difference between the two.
If somebody wanted to move for like 30,000 or something, Zach, I think that would
Up
give us
to,
plenty of leeway.
I'll make that motion then, if we're ready.
It's called a RF.
RRFB,
Okay.
rectangular rapid flashing beacon.
I move that the school district partners with the city for coordination of a RRFB system for both Highway 3 and Highway 4, and up to $30,000.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? If not, we have a motion by Zach, seconded by Mike, for up to $30,000 for an RRFB system for the crossing walks. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Alex.
I
Appreciate
appreciate
your
everyone.
explanation.
Yeah, and I'm gonna do my little preface as I walk away, because everybody likes to. I want to say, I am thankful for your school administration and stuff. We've had a rough couple months, so things are, I think, hopefully turning around, so.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have on page 28 of your packets to discuss / approve purchase of a new projector for this space at a cost of $11,570. Do we want Phil?
Phil's here if you've got questions. This would be an upgrade to the projector in this room, so it would be both used for board meetings potentially, as well as professional development for teachers in the district. Current system was installed when we moved into the
So
building.
is the current one right there?
Correct.
And would this new one be mounted same general?
Yeah, it'll be mounted the same.
What would the improvement be?
That one there is 5,000 lumens. The current list that you have, or the current price that you have there on that unit is a 10,000 lumen. We can go to a 13,000 lumen for 12,999 total on that. So it'll be at least double the amount of light that you get out of that. We haven't had many issues with that. We have to turn off the front row during the daytime. It's almost unusable, light coming in through these shades.
So is there a big difference between the 10 and, did you say 12,000 limit?
10 and 13,000. 13,000. Yeah, I would say there is a difference. There's 3,000 lumens coming through there.
Is there, or have you, or is there a way to like test run one or not?
Yeah, if we put it up, we don't like it, we can set it back.
Is there, so, sorry, go ahead.
Is there a big difference in price between the 10,000 and the 13,000 lumen?
Not much. The 13,000 is the total of with the lens that's calibrated to this size of the unit, $12,993.
I would think
So
about
there's that $600 difference.
1,500.
Yeah, 3,000 lumen is a significant difference.
considering this is a 5,000.
If you're gonna do it, I see no reason not to get the best one.
Right.
I would agree.
What's the life expectancy?
20,000 hours.
Huh? And how old is our building?
We moved in approximately the spring of 12, I believe it was.
I looked
Or
at
11.
this unit.
I think it was 11.
10 years.
I think this unit was around $5,000 to purchase this.
Do we need additional information?
This is coming out of general fund or this would be buildings fund?
This would be facilities.
Facilities fund, okay.
Say 12,990, is that right?
That's correct.
For the upgraded one?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't have it.
I'll move to approve 12,990 for the upgraded projectors.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Chris, seconded by Zach, to approve the Commons projector with 13,000 lumens at a price tag of $12,990. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next on our agenda, to discuss the option of adding a student representative at the board table. And I asked Joe to research this. And can you fully explain to us the pros and the cons?
Fully, probably not. Here's what I can share with you. In talking with IASB, they did send a fair amount of literature for your consideration. And it is in a separate packet that's on your tables. When I consulted with IASB, they did state that there are school districts that have this. In checking in this area at least, Mr. Birdie got a hold of me today and said, can you find out what all the school districts in the state are doing by tonight's meeting? Well, no, I couldn't do that. But I did make some phone calls and throw out some text messages to some groups that I am a part of. So from about 3 o'clock this afternoon to the present, of the school districts that have responded so far, none in this area are currently doing this. So those school districts that responded were Webster City, Denison, Newell Fonda, ACT, Storm Lake, Lorenz Marathon, Sioux Central, Clay Central Everly, Esterville, Southeast Valley, Manson Northwest Webster, and the last I knew, West Bend Mallard also did not have this in place, at least in the last conversations that I had while I was up there helping out. Storm Lake was as close as anyone had as far as having done anything. And last year, they had it set up where a student from their student council would attend board meetings. And this year, that is not happening. So it was last year, and then this year, that has fallen off. Did not have enough time to follow up to ask the question why that has fallen off, but it has fallen off. When you take a look at the information that came from IASB, and I just included that email in here when I made a phone call to Tammy from who was presenting here last month to you. Just some things for you to consider. One of those that she mentioned was really sitting down and talking about what you were hoping to accomplish. The sample board policy exists for you to do it, but there's still components that are not in place, all right? Helping them understanding their role at a board meeting if you choose to go down this path. Do you feel, at least in the current environments, that that would be a safe place for a student to also be? Understanding how the board meetings works, including Robert's Rule of Order. Reviewing board member ethics, if you go down this road. What is expected for attendance at the meeting, whether it's the entire meeting, just first part of the meeting. How much of the meeting would they be present? Also included in my Friday memo, a few other questions for you to consider. They're not held to exactly the same piece as you are. They are non-voting members, right? Because each of you are duly elected members representing the school district. So this would be more of an opportunity to give input when you wish. ISB strongly encouraged you maybe to consider starting this process by having a member of the student council attend each of your board meetings and perhaps even just give a report to you in terms of what the student council is doing to start a process where there's some familiarity with what you're doing, how the meetings are run, as you work through a process of determining whether or not and what it is you're hoping for this to accomplish. Because that desired outcome was one of the questions she raised on the phone with me. What is your desired outcome? Because that's going to direct some of your process. Because you're also going to have to create a process if you choose to move forward to determine how that individual is going to be selected. Currently, I believe in our board policy that opens this door, it would be for sophomores and juniors. It would not allow or include seniors. That isn't uncommon. And in fact, we used that same process when the district consolidated with Palmer and Palmer School District, because the outgoing seniors didn't have as much vested interest in the outcome because it wasn't potentially going to impact them. So this is allow that input to you if you decide to go down that road by individuals who are going to be present. But again, ISB suggested maybe thinking about just starting with presenting to the board some updates. And in fact, if you know ahead of time of topics, that could also then be filtered back to student council to get a little bit larger voice and then bring those to desired topics that you have. Because some of the things that you decide aren't necessarily student decisions.
Lots of the things we decide. It obviously impacts students.
When you think about the learning curve it is just as a new board member coming on board, if you remember back to each of your first times on the board, there is a pretty good learning curve here, and it continues for some time, to be perfectly honest.
Thinking out loud, what if each class has a student, how do I want to say it? You have a class president, vice president, and the secretary, correct?
I believe that is correct.
What if we just had, where you would alternate this meeting, the senior vice president, president, secretary presents to the board, and then the next meeting, the junior class or freshman class or sophomore, and just kind of rotate it during a time frame, or maybe it'd be the entire, you wouldn't want to do it during the summertime. I don't probably see the reasoning for that.
Your sample policy would suggest not doing it when school is not in session.
Still want to just hold it, excuse me. You'd still just want to hold it to juniors and seniors, or juniors and sophomores too, because outgoing seniors, I mean, their time here, I'm not saying this isn't important. Well, it's limited right now. I mean, essentially
in my
5 months
thoughts, it
they're
wouldn't
out.
be, it would just be more to summarize what they've done during their student council
Yeah, it
meetings.
could be that too.
So, quick question, and I don't know, this obviously got put on the agenda because somebody has interest in it. Is that a student? Is that,
It was a board member, myself. I was just curious on it.
I'm not opposed to it at all. I think it'd be great to have student council or somebody from, to come get involved and learn the process. I don't think it's a bad idea. I was just curious, was a student interested in it or?
I guess you guys have had discussions in the past on this, and I was just, when I heard that, I thought it was pretty cool that a kid could start if they're interested in this type of the school board, or when they go off to college to councils there, this would just be an excellent start for them.
Yep. And I did something similar in college. There was the academic advisory board that we had for feed science. I was the student representative for it for 1 year. And you do learn a lot.
Well, it's just the input that they can give us would feed us definitely, what's going on with them in the school, what they feel like they need or what we could do. That'd be huge for us to get that input.
The other positive, when Dustin brought it up, that theoretically it could help recruiting down the road to have school board membership or to run to be on the school board type of thing.
Yeah.
The concerning part to me is this is just me, is that they're not held to the same standard as far as being unbiased and impartial. And with social media as it is, I have some concern about that.
And there was some caution from ISB on that account. Why they suggested you really should figure out your why, what it is you would like to see as an outcome of incorporating student voice, giving you some feedback occasionally. What is the goal of that? Because they're not going to necessarily have the same, they're not elected official, right? I mean, and there's a number of the things that you do, such as your closed sessions, disciplinary hearings, they can't be a part of it all, right? I mean, so they're not board members, right?
The other thing is what could we just make it so we could actually get somebody from the student council or the student council meet and actually ask them what their opinion of this might be?
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
I mean, it may be something that we might want to just table till next month and wait to see what the actual student council has to say first. I'm just saying.
Sure. I think you just gotta open the door.
Yeah, I
for
understand that
students
part of it. I'm just
Maybe kind of poll them and see what their thoughts are on.
See if they want to actually come and set a board meeting.
Right. And that's where ISB started off with their suggestions. Maybe your starting place is inviting them to come and share some information with you to at least get the foot in the door. As a starting place.
We can always approve it later.
Yeah, there's not a hurry.
I mean, I'll agree, it'd be something that'd be pretty interesting, I think, to a few of them.
I think it'd be a great opportunity. I mean, like I said, I've experienced similar things when I was in college. But there's a lot of material here. I want to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shared a lot of information.
And we can, if we're going to the state convention, we can inquire within a few people down there too.
Correct. And Tammy, who was part of your presentation last month, will be at the convention, so. Because she asked whether or not you'd be attending or not.
So are we thinking the direction for Joe is have administration invite the student council representation to the next meeting
Yep, yeah.
and discuss it?
And I think possibly start building an application two, I'm not saying that these kids aren't going to do it, but there might be in the future, and you have that ready to go for when the time does come. Instead of having to sit through 2 or 3 meetings and be like, well, maybe we should do an application, it's just ready to go.
Give me some time on your application,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
even when you look at your policy,
Yep.
there are some procedural and regulation pieces that are not built into that policy. I mean, so we have to build those components before we're ready to dip your toe in that pond, so to speak. And I would want to reach out to some districts that have gone down that path and learn from their experiences here too.
Yeah, I think let's explore it.
I can work with the student council sponsor and see what we can get set up for the next month's meeting.
Do you have enough direction to?
I have enough, yep.
Okay. Moving on, thankfully, no resignations. Number 2, contracts.
We're gonna table that one. We're down to semifinalists 2, and we're doing reference checks on both of them at the current time, and I've confirmed with both that they are still interested in the positions. So we're working down that next step now.
Okay. Volunteer coaches, we have Jim Murray, boys basketball, John Herrick, boys basketball, Dave Dutcher, girls basketball.
Move to approve all 3.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Chris, seconded by Zach to approve the list of 3 volunteer coaches as read. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Superintendent's update.
Just a reminder that we've got convention this week. I'll be posting information regarding that agenda, where where the convention is located, the convention center. And just express my appreciation for the board's willingness to be a part of that process. It's educational. And then I would recommend at our next meeting, potentially again, like we did last year, share some of your learnings just with your experiences, because you're each going to have a different take. I mean, even with the delegate assembly, I mean, there's different takes in terms of what actually goes through, and if Dustin has anything, or if they push out something, we can push that out to full board even before the next board meeting.
Okay.
And I think, before we leave that, if I can, I think Karen was asking me, for those of you who will be down there Wednesday night, for some guidance as far as trying to find a time to eat
We
together.
already got that settled.
A time?
Yep,
Okay.
7 o'clock.
We've got a
Karen
time?
set it up the last time we met. And we were
forgot.
talking about that to start with.
Okay, 7 PM then.
Okay, next meeting date, December the 12th, 7 PM. And we have the year 2022 on here, Joe.
I did get it corrected.
Same location.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Mike, seconded by Chris to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
Karen. Paul, I want the damn pen.
Steve, you glad you weren't further north?
Yeah, I heard.
I hear you, Justin.
Here you go up by Esterville, even if you just get north of Mallard, it's nice, you get kind of nice.
Oh, really?
They called me, they left all our planes in Emmitsburg because the guy says, I'm